Hello, this is Uncle Timo, and this is a first for YouTube. This is a human versus human War in the Pacific Admiral edition. Okay, it's December 7, 1941. We are playing as allies versus my opponent, Raider. He's playing the Japanese. A little bit about us. We're both Polish. He has played this game before, multiple times, as the Japanese. So he specializes in the Japanese, and he played Grand Campaign several times. I have not played the Grand Campaign versus a human being. I have begun a campaign and went a few months versus the computer, so I kind of sort of know what I'm doing, but I don't know all the tricks. He does. I expect to get my ass kicked. I will try to prevent Japanese out of victory, and I will try to defend the Allied cause, and try not to lose World War II. Right now it's peacetime, except for the area of China. China has been at war with the Japanese Empire for several years now, since the Marco Polo incident, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in my history, feel free. The thing about China to realize is that when you press Y, these are the railroads, and they give a lot of supply because trains carry a lot of supply. These are normal roads, and these are okay. However, it's much better to transport supplies on railroads. And Japanese Empire has conquered China, the area that's most industrialized and that has the most railroads. So their supplies will be without a problem, because all the railroads are coming and going from all the way from Korea and their territory of Manchukuo all the way to their area of China. We, however, the Chinese, we're in the boonies. We were thrown out of the most prime real estate, and we are in the boonies. We're withdrawing into the middle China, into the rough. Let's see if I can do this. Into the rough and mountainous areas and forests, things like that, terrain of that nature. And you can see that the only railroads that we control is this, which doesn't really help us, and this from Xi'an, and it doesn't really go anywhere. So this is useless. This railroad is also useless. Guilin, Hengyang, Changsha. However, we have nothing at Tuyun, but we do have stuff at. We have nothing at. We don't have stuff. We don't have anything in Liuzhou. We don't have anything really much in Guilin. So it's a problem, because you can see that this base produces. It only has 50 supply, but it produces 40 per turn, so it's 40 per day. But before it produces enough, it's to send to other bases, it's gonna have to supply itself. So it's an issue, and I actually made a mistake. We don't want to have that much here. It's an issue, especially since I'm expanding the airfield and expanding the forts. For the first turn, I want to expand fortifications and airfields pretty much everywhere to see what the supply situation is, how catastrophic it will become. The silver lining is we do have the Chinese Air Force, and I know what you're saying. Chinese Air Force, World War II, what are you doing? Well, we're not bombing. We are supplying. We are going to supply Guilin, Guiyang, and Liuzhou, those areas. So basically, this is Tuyun, this is Guiyang, this is Liuzhou. I don't think we're supplying Nanning. Might change that in a bit. But we're supplying this because once you supply these areas, there's a railroad here, and we will transport. Shouldn't be a problem to transport on these axes to Kukong, for example, etc. So once we supply these bases, it will push supplies to Kukong and all these areas here, which will be in combat. Later on, next turn or in a few turns, I will get some stuff too. And let's see, do we have any supplies anywhere here? Changsha, I think, has supplies. Okay, so Changsha actually does have supplies here. Okay, and Changsha is gonna push some stuff to these areas. Also, what we want to supply is we do have some bombers, including the modern A-29 Hudson, as well as some modern Soviet machines. These are pretty modern. Don't knock them down. SB-2s are fast bombers. Having played War Thunder, I have much respect for them. And I also read a book about the Namonhan battle. Perhaps the Khalkhin Gol, Namonhan, perhaps the most important battle of World War II. So I'm a big fan of SB-2s, especially in the beginning of the war. Those are going to supply... Good question. We should be supplying Nanyang. Okay, good thing I fixed that. So we will be supplying the base in Nanyang. Okay, it's in clear area. We're gonna get our asses kicked, especially since we don't have any fortifications here. We do, it's 2, but it's in clear terrain. However, I want to, all the important bases, I want to defend. I really want to defend. So I will push as much supply as I can into the bases that I can defend. You can see all the troops are moving. They're moving away from clear terrain, with some exceptions. I want to cut some railroads. So some of these are moving to cut these supplies. So we're gonna cut some railroads into these areas. And yeah, I don't know how much Shanghai is making, but it's probably making a lot of supply, so it might not work. But we're gonna push a few units to cut the railroads, and the rest are retreating into the rough and terrain, which is easier to defend than clear terrain, and into bases. And we're gonna try to make a continuous front line, with the majority of the forces in the bases themselves, especially the ones that produce. One good memory I have is against playing versus the computer is Wen Chao. Wen Chao is actually producing 80 supply per day, which is a huge amount. So I'm wondering how much Shanghai is producing. Probably much, much more. I don't think Japanese will have problems with supply. I do. But I am retreating. I'm moving stuff into Wen Chao. And I'm going to build as much fortification as I can, up to 3-4 level. And we're going to defend Wen Chao. Let's be a thorn in the Japanese side. That's pretty much China in a nutshell. The ones that are in contact with the enemy are in combat. The ones that are not in contact with the enemy are in, should be, in rest. I can fix it after I turn off the video and I'll check it, but if it's not a rest, they should be moving. Some of these, you can see that this base doesn't need the garrison, because China was in a civil war, actually is in a civil war versus the communists. There's an uneasy peace between the communist Chinese and Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang. You can see that the garrison here is 162 over 120, which means we need a 120 force. We have more, but we really can't move the freaking force away from some cities because we need garrisons. Otherwise, we're going to have partisan attacks and troops who are loyal to their own warlords who can be allied to Japanese. It's actually historical. A lot of Chinese warlords joined the Japanese side, and then later switched from Kuomintang to the Chinese communist side, and the Chinese, after they won, promptly shot them. Hooray! Okay, so that's war in China. We'll see how it goes, especially with my air supply and especially with me building fortifications everywhere. I am also building air bases up to 2. We'll see how it goes. It will probably fail horribly. Malaysia is on high alert. I talked to my opponent. I wanted to do a historical, but I will move for Z now. All this stuff is gonna move to Surabaya, and that's just minesweeping in Singapore. So this is moving to Surabaya, which is the Dutch East Indies, DEI, and Yeah, I got a permission to do that. I want to play historically and throw them into mersing, but I decided not to, especially since I talked to my opponent and he said, yeah, do for Z you can retreat it, that's not a problem. So after talking to my opponent, China is at war, we can do whatever we want in China. The rest of the places, it's peacetime. Because they have, historically, the British were actually shadowing the Japanese troop convoys. I am deciding that some of the fighters will be on escort duty. The historical surprise is on, so we'll be still caught with their pants down in the first Japanese attack. But I decided that, hey, they're in high alert, and that's how I decided to play this. All the other places are basically training their air crews. Every other place is basically training. Except for this guy. Wherever I click in this game, I swear to God, wherever I click in this game, I see, oh, I totally forgot to do this. I totally forgot to do that. So after the video, I will actually do that. Yeah, jeez. Fantastic. Yep, we're gonna have to do float planes. All the float planes on the ships are actually, well, that's another thing. Let's continue. Every other place is at peace, so they're either training or doing ASW patrols, but mostly training. The ships and task forces are not moved. They're going historically, except close to Pearl Harbor. We're moving away from Pearl Harbor, and also this guy. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's move him away. And float planes are on ASW duty, correct? So we are actually moving away from Pearl Harbor. My opponent has said that he might or might not bomb Pearl Harbor historically. Don't know. Don't know where Kota Bahru is, which is the Japanese mobile force, aka Doomstar, aka Death Star, aka, oh my god, the Japanese carriers are coming. They have a lot more carriers than the Americans. So every place is at war, and things are is at peace, and things are staying put, except in the area of Pearl Harbor. Everywhere else, we are training pilots. We are basically training, and yeah, what is this? This is recon. So might as well do training of the recon. Yeah, I need to click some more. God, my hand is hurting actually, because after this turn, I can't imagine what he did with the Japanese turn. It took him several days to do it. I just took several hours today to do it, and I didn't finish. My strategic plan, I really don't have one right now. We're gonna see what my opponent does. Right now we're in reaction mode to Japanese Empire, because they're much stronger. The interesting thing about Japan is, in this game, is I'm learning as an American that the Japanese had a crushing numerical superiority, and even worse, crushing qualitative superiority, which means their airplanes are much better right now than mine, than Allied ones, on every level. Their fighters have better range and are much more maneuverable than ours. Their carrier planes, such as their torpedo planes and dive bombers, have much better farther range than us, which is a big issue, because in carrier battles they can launch carrier attack on our fleet while we are out of range and we cannot strike back. It's an issue. Their torpedoes work. I know that's how it should be, but our torpedoes, and let me check something. Okay. But our torpedoes do not work. The Dutch torpedo, there's a problem with Allied torpedoes, historically, and in this game. What's happening is, if we have an old submarine which uses old style torpedoes, such as the Dutch submarines or the SS what's called the SS submarine code, which is the older submarines. They use older torpedoes, and those actually work fine. The newer torpedoes were improved, or were supposed to be improved, because the magnetic pistol was put into those torpedoes, and they were switched from the old torpedoes had to hit the ship at a correct angle, otherwise they will not explode. So they will basically have to hit at about 90 degrees angle at a correct depth to actually strike the ship, and it's pretty hard to achieve. So what our country, America, and all the other countries, including Nazi Germany, tried to do was they put magnetic pistols, so-called magnetic pistols, on their torpedoes, so the ship did not have to be struck at 90 degrees. When the torpedo decided that it was close enough, without even hitting the ship, but it was close enough underneath the ship, the magnetic pistol went to work. It detected, hey, I'm next to steel, let's blow up. It's supposed to blow up and make a real big hole at the bottom of the ship, which is a huge issue. However, the big problem is that those magnetic pistols, they did not work as advertised for all the navies in the world, and they sucked. Right now, our torpedoes work at about 10% efficiency, meaning about 1 or 2 torpedoes per 10 shot, and which hit will work. So 1 in 10. It's terrifying. It's horrible. It's raging. It's salt. It's all that shit. So it's a problem. That's why the Dutch submarines and the ones that are American, but ones that are called these ones, S-36, for example. Anything S- is fantastic. Any submarine that actually has a name, and let's see if we have any here. Yeah, for example, Porpoise and all these, they have what I call 1 in 10 torpedoes. So it's an issue. All these, they just suck up supplies and they basically don't work. It's terrible, but it's historical. So the Japanese, to come back, they have crushing numbers. They have much more. They have more airplanes, more carriers, more battleships, more everything. They have better quality in everything, from torpedoes on down. As an American, I'm shocked that our airplanes, fighters, bombers, torpedo bombers, dive bombers, everything is worse than the Japanese ones. It's basically much worse. From range to maneuverability to armament to how our weapons work, everything is worse. Especially range, and it's shocking. We are gonna be in trouble for the first several months of the war, if not the first years. I'm gonna get my ass whooped. It's gonna be fun. So the situation is, like I said, China at war, Malaysia at high alert historically. Everywhere else, peacetime. Birds are singing, women are stripping in bedrooms. It's beautiful, just like Hollywood movie. So that's it. That's the first turn. I will now check all my planes with lots of clicking and see where I fucked up. For example, I can already see that Wake Island I fucked up. No, it's rest. Naval attack rest. Okay. So that's actually good. The problem with naval attack on Wake Island is historically they did very well here. However, they don't have a search option here. So what can happen is the Japanese can come at night, get their troops, do an amphibious invasion, and my airplanes will not do anything. So that's the limitation of this game. But we'll see what we can do. I am not supposed to move all my submarines, and historically they're moving like that. But I left everything, like I said, told my opponent, and we agreed. I will leave everything as is, except I cheated. I moved Indianapolis southward because, I'm cheating, okay? Because it was supposed to go to Pearl Harbor, and that's not good. That's not good. So I moved it. Everything else pretty much stayed the same, other than for Z, and that's renamed. All these things are concerning Surabaya. So you're with me for this long. Let's do a quick summary. December 7, 1941, before the war. UK Air Force in Malaysia, Singapore on high alert. They're on combat air patrol. Philippine fighters, they're just training. China forces are at war. Anything is possible, and I moved everything that I could. Our bombers are supplying Chinese forces. Dutch pilots in the East Indies are training. All float planes on ships, heavier ships such as cruisers, heavy cruisers, and battleships. And some are on CVs, which is aircraft carriers. They are on ASW patrol. Singapore Rangoon are building fortifications. Palembang is building fortification. In case your geography sucks, my geography is awesome thanks to this game. Palembang is a refinery town. This is oil town. This is boom oil town. We need to defend it and or bomb it or destroy it. This is why Japanese declared war for this town. All of these towns here, Batavia, Surabaya, Palembang, just like Singapore, are building fortifications. Philippines, let's go to the Philippines. Clark Field and Manila are building fortifications. My opponent did not talk about it, but I'm believing that America would, the troops will try to dig in and make some bunkers because they know war is coming. So I decided to do it. Clark Field and Manila are making fortifications. And USA carriers, they are close to Pearl Harbour and they're on maneuvers. So they're actually going, let's just say they're not going towards Pearl Harbour and they're not going towards Japanese bases or going towards lake. They're going somewhere else. South. They're going here. Okay. Shh, shh, shh. So that's it. That's it. That's the plan right now. And the plan for China will be to try to make a continuous front line and defend until the supplies build up. We're gonna keep the Burma Road, which historically was from Rangoon, which is here. No, sorry. Oops. Hi, I'm an idiot. It's right here. So this is the Burma Road. It goes somewhere like this. It goes Rangoon, Tawang Sri, whatever, Lasio, Mandalay, and Ledo. Where's Ledo? Anyway, it goes something like this. Okay? To Paoshan. And that's why I wanted to say this place has lots of supply, but it doesn't. It doesn't. No place in China has supplies. Other than Kunming. So we're gonna fly all these supplies from Kunming everywhere else. So Chinese are gonna get extra supplies per day, per turn, if the Burma Road is open. So the Japanese player, one of his strategies is to invade Burma to at least cut off the Burma Road, so the Chinese starve for supplies. The problem with China is their troops are actually not bad. They're worse than the Japanese ones with morale and equipment, but they're not bad. They're much better than the British troops, actually, my opinion. Historical opinion also. I can get some quotations going. And from historical books about the Japanese combat assessment of Chinese versus British troops. But, you can't blame the Brits. They wanted to die in the UK versus to defend their Great Britain, as opposed to dying in Burma for they didn't know what. Anyway, the situation in China is supplies, and that's the main area of concern. Everything else will clarify, and we'll see where the main strike force and what my opponent wants to do, whether he goes for the Philippines, very probable, whether he goes to Malaya, and whether he goes to Kuantan, Kota Bahru, or maybe Mersing. He can make an invasion here, and then I'm fucked. I am screwed. If he makes an invasion here, I am so fucked. It's not even funny. Once that's done, he might move on to Batavia, Surabaya, and especially Palembang, or he might not. He might move immediately to these places, and hit me everywhere. Who knows? He's very experienced. He might even leave Philippines alone. Doubtful, but it could happen. He might bomb Pearl Harbor for several days. I don't know. Paranoia rules this game. I am extremely afraid now because the computer is very predictable. He's probably not as predictable. So even if he was a total idiot, even if he was a total idiot, okay, as a human being, he's unpredictable. The worst thing is he's not an idiot. He's actually very smart. He knows this game, and he's unpredictable, which means I'm screwed. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully, you will stick with me and follow me, my adventures as the Allied Admiral slash General, as Uncle Timo proceeds to lose World War II in the Pacific. Hope you enjoy. Hope you like this format. I will do shorter videos. I swear to God, I promise, I will do shorter videos. There will be 2 videos. One will be my strategic planning, where I will not show all the clicking that's necessary in this game. And trust me, it's fucking horrible. My hand hurts like a motherfucker. Okay, I will not show all the clicking, but I will talk about the strategic situation and what I do and why I do it. And the next video will be that, and then the video after that will be will be 2 videos per day. One will be a strategic situation, me explaining explaining strategic situation. Let's talk nicely for ladies, if any are watching. And second thing is, second video will be combat animations. I will show all the action in the whole Pacific theater, what's being bombed, where there's combat, what's going on. Okay, so everybody take care. Hope you stick with me. This is first on YouTube, human versus human noob, aka Uncle Timo, versus a very experienced guy, aka Raider. And we'll see how long Uncle Timo can hold on and before World War II is lost. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.